I got these animals on that distiller grains corn mixture, and I've been taking a look at it. And today, I may end up stepping up their diet a little bit. So their manure is starting to clump up just a little bit. It's starting to stack up a little bit high, and the animals are not showing any signs of acidosis. So I was taking a look at it, and okay. So as of right now, I'm feeding them 2 buckets of corn and 2 buckets of distiller grains in the morning, and that turns out to be it weighs about 30 pounds a bucket. So we're talking about 120 pounds, and I may raise that to feeding them another bucket of corn and distiller grains in the evening. So I may step up their diet by 50% tonight. And so I'm taking a look at what's going on, and I got another lease property that I may have lined up. I may go look at it. I'm taking a look at the whole situation because, okay, here's from what I see. And I've already been saying, I made a. Okay, so I'll tell you about what I see. All right, I'll tell you about what I see. And right now I got 47 animals, right? And out of these 47 animals, 40 of them will be going to market within the next 2.5 months. Okay, 40 of them will be going to market in the next 2.5, 3 months. And when these 40 animals go to market, well, how did that animal break out? I actually had that animal. Actually, I don't know if it's that animal. I don't think it is, but I got the little Brangus calf that's having a difficulty eating. She's kind of timid. I put her in the preconditioning pen with that little white Charlet, so that I can feed them both, and I'll leave them both in there together, so that the Charlet calf's not sitting in the preconditioning pen by himself. And so, okay, here's what I see going on. All right, I got 47 animals. A majority of these animals, I would say that in terms of the average weight of the animal that I brought in, in terms of the overall herd, I brought in these animals at about 325 pounds, okay? I brought them in at about 325, and I will be selling them at about 750. All right, so I brought them in at 325, and I'll be selling them at 350. And, my business, and just to put things in perspective, last month, all right, it's a new month, okay? It's a new month. Last month, I spent like $590 something on my business for the entire month. All right, that's legitimately what my business cost me, $590 something. All right, my death loss was 0. I didn't lose a single animal last month. And in terms of the overall animals, out of the 70 animals that I have run this year, out of 70 animals, I lost about 3 or 4%. My death loss was about 3 to 4%. All right, so I did exceptionally well. All right, I did extremely well. I'm actually taking a look at it, and the amount of money that I'm making is so high that I don't even know how much money I'm making. And I will give you here's a way to look at it. So over the next 2 months, all right, I will be liquidating 40 out of my 47 animals. And when I liquidate these 40 animals, I will still have 7 animals left over, right? I got half a dozen animals in here that are still real small, and they'll probably need another month or two, probably need another 2 months to grow. But let's take a look at it, okay? So I got all these animals, 40 of them I will be selling. And when I sell these 40 animals, I will probably make enough money to buy 65 animals, 2 or 3 loads of grain, 2 loads of fertilizer, and I will still probably have a couple $1,000s left over. So if I sell 40 animals and I have enough money to buy 65, I make enough money to buy 65, and I make enough money to buy 3 loads of grain and 2 loads of fertilizer, and I have a couple $1,000s left over. Right, and I can pay myself whatever I need whenever I need it. All right, there's no reason for me to go, oh my God, I just need to stockpile cash. Cash is not a good asset, okay? It is a good asset, but it's not a phenomenal asset. It's important to have some cash, okay? You don't want to be in a situation where you have no money. All right, you don't want to be in that situation, but you also don't want to be on the other side of that and be in a situation where the only thing you're looking to do is build cash. There's no reason to do that. All right, you should be thinking about assets. Think about good assets. What is a good asset that I can buy? What kind of a return does it produce? When I purchase this asset, how do I appraise the value of this asset? That's the kind of stuff that's more important than just sitting there going, oh my God, I need more cash. You don't need more cash, okay? If you have money problems, you probably don't have money problems. You probably have a list of other problems and it's causing you to have money problems, okay? You don't want to be in a situation where you're looking to just stockpile cash. And here's another way to look at it. So over the next 2.5 months, I will probably, I would reasonably estimate that I liquidate about 40 out of my 47 animals. They will hit the scale at about 750 on the average, 750, something like that. And, and a majority of these animals, I would say in terms of the whole lot of them, I brought them in at 325 pounds. All right, I brought them in at 325. I more than doubled their weight. And when I do that, when I liquidate these 40 animals, I will probably make enough money to buy it may even be 70, okay? It's going to be like 65, 70 animals. I will be able to buy 3 loads of grain, 2 loads of fertilizer, and I will still probably have a couple $1,000s left over. And here's the thing. Okay, so let's say I sell 40 animals and I make enough money to buy 65. I have determined that I'm going to buy 65. If I were to leverage against my earnings 1 for 1, how many animals would I buy? All right, so if I have 40 and I'm going to 65, that's 25 animals in the net positive, right? I would not buy 65 animals. I would buy 90. And why would I do that? Because the 25 animals that I made in a net profit is my money. It's my money. I can do whatever I want with it, right? And if I lose it, it don't really matter. I'll just make it back in a month. All right, I mean, we're not talking about a large amount of money. I mean, it's going to be like 30, 40 grand. It's a very minuscule amount of money. All right, it's a very small amount of money. I don't care about 30, 40 grand, okay? I'm not going to say I don't care about it, but it's not something to be concerned about. $30,000, $40,000 is a very small amount of money. I'm not going to be concerned about 30, 40 grand. I have a lot of things that I need to do, right? Well, how is my grass doing, right? How are my cattle doing? Is there something I can improve, right? What does my balance sheet look like? I'm more concerned about that stuff than 30 or 40 grand. I can make 30, 40 grand in a month, probably less than a month. All right, I'm not worried about 30, 40 grand. There's a lot more legitimate things to be concerned about than a very small amount of money. And so I take a look at my balance sheet, right? And I say, well, I have these 40 animals. I brought in these animals at about 325 pounds, and I will be liquidating them at 750. I will probably make enough profit to buy myself 25 more animals, 3 loads of grain, 2 loads of fertilizer, and I will still probably have a couple $1,000s left over. And I will be getting paid again, within like 2 months, right? And so I take a look at the whole situation and I say, well, if I netted a profit of 25 animals and I go to the bank and I take a loan for 25 more animals, I would not be buying 65 animals. I would be buying 90, and I would still be leveraged under 1 for 1 on my entire balance sheet. All right, that's another way to look at it. In terms of the amount of money that I'm making, I don't even know how much money I make. All right, in like a realistic perspective, I do so well farming that I legitimately take a dump on the entire U.S. economy. I may legitimately be one of the best farmers on the entire planet. I didn't even know that it was happening until it happened. I am doing so well that I'm actually doing I'm actually on a farm by myself, doing everything by myself more or less, and I am actually achieving, borderline over commercial standards. And commercial standards for beef are some of the highest standards that you can have. Legitimately, all right? Commercial standards are not easy. If it was easy for people to get into the commercial beef industry and make money, everybody would do it. As far as I know, I'm the only one even suggesting doing this. All right, I actually run commercial beef cattle on a 10.5 acre field. Well, and I got a 39.5 acre lease property. So we're talking about 51 acres. Right, I mean, I run cattle on a 50 acre field, and I legitimately do so well on these 50 acres that I am effectively outperforming the entire U.S. economy. And here's another, and this is a very realistic way to look at it. Out of my 47 animals, 40 of them will be getting liquidated over the next 2 months. When I liquidate these 40 animals, I will probably make enough money to buy 65 animals, 3 loads of grain, 2 loads of fertilizer, and I will still probably have a couple $1,000s left over, and I will be getting paid again in a couple of months. All right, in a month or two, I will pay myself. I will actually increase the frequency of my payment to about double over the next 3 months. Instead of getting paid every 2 months, I will be effectively getting paid every month and the same exact amount of money, more or less, okay? I will actually just flat out double the amount of money that I'm making. And in terms of expenses, what did this business cost me? My business cost me it was like $590 something. All right, it was like $590 something. I did not have any animals die at all. All right, I purchased my animals. I purchased good animals at appraisal value. I purchased these animals at appraisal value. All right, all the animals that I purchased at appraisal value, and I did not have a single animal die. So my expenses for the entire month were like $590 something. And for that money, I legitimately ran 47 cattle to a commercial standard. Legitimately to a commercial standard. All right, that's what I did with the money, with $590 something. And a very realistic way to look at this is within the next 2 months, I will be liquidating 40 out of my 47 animals. I will probably more than double the size of my balance sheet. More than double. All right, and if I double the size of my balance sheet, if I more than double the size of my balance sheet, what do you think my income is going to do, right? That's effectively what I mean by, right now I'm getting paid about once every 2.5 months, once every 2 months, but I will actually increase the frequency of my payment to once a month, and I will more or less be making the same amount of money. All right, and and it is what it is. I don't know what else to say. It just is what it is, okay? I actually do this stuff in real life, and at the end of the day, I'm not lying to you about it. I'm not lying to anybody about it. I tell you the truth. I legitimately do so well farming that I effectively take a dump on the entire, it would probably be the entire planet. All right, probably the entire planet, because I mean, if you think about it, America has some of the most successful, actually America does have the most successful agriculture on the entire planet, okay? America does have the most successful agriculture on the entire planet. It doesn't even get close, all right? The amount of corn and wheat and just flat out commodities that America produces is astronomical to any other country. All right, America produces a massive amount of farm products, by a long shot more than anybody else, way more. All right, the American farmer produces more farm products than any other, than any other country on the entire planet by a long shot. All right, the American farmer does exceptionally well. All right, and so, but in me, I'm actually in the commercial cattle business by myself, making all of this money. All right, I will be more than doubling the size of my balance sheet over the next like 3 months. More than double the size of my balance sheet, okay? I'm taking a look at it, and I don't even know how much money I'm making. I'm making a lot. All right, I'm making a lot, okay? And I actually got 2 cattle over there, but I'll go over there and take a look at them. I wonder why they're standing over there like that. They should be up here eating the food with the rest of them. And I did get a little bit of rain, so let me go and take a look at them. But when it comes to the whole balance sheet and everything, and the animals that I got right now, and my death losses were so low. My death loss is at about 3 to 4% for the year. And so, I didn't hardly have any expenses in terms of death loss. And I've already said that the death loss is the most expensive thing. All right, and if an animal dies, that's effectively the most expensive line item. I'm not going to say an item, but that is the most expensive in terms of it just is what it is. Death loss is the fastest way to lose money. All right, because you lose the value of the animal on the back end as well, right? Because you have the cost of the animal on the front end, and then you have the potential value of the animal on the back end. And so let me go take a look at these 2 animals. I'm not sure why they should be up here eating the food. And so I'm taking a look at the whole situation. I have a large amount of money coming in, okay? When I sell these cattle, this is what my grass looks like right now. This is what my grass looks like right now. I still got a lot of grass, okay? I still got a lot of grass. I mean, and it's raining and it's cooling a little bit, and when the animals chew it up real good, I'll probably refertilize it. I'll take a look at it to see if it's worth refertilizing, and if it is, then I'll refertilize it, and then maybe I get enough growth on it to feed my cattle for another month. And even if I refertilize it, refertilizing my entire field costs like $350, okay? But this is what I mean by the manure's clumping up a little bit. The manure is starting to clump up a bit. That's what a lot of the manure looks like right now. And I want to loosen it up just a little bit. Oh yeah, no, this is one of the new animals. You know, this is the fat little Charlet and one of the new animals. So the new animal doesn't really know what's going on, because he doesn't know what a feed bunk is, I don't think. But there he is right there. That's the fat little Charlet and the new animal. So over the next 2.5 months, I have a large amount of money coming in, okay? I actually outperformed myself. I'm taking a look at it for what it is. And if I utilize a little bit of debt and just leverage against the number of animals that I have in terms of a net profit, I will be able to more than double the size of my balance sheet, okay? And when I double the size of my balance sheet, I effectively double my payment. All right, I doubled the amount of money that I'm making. And I've already decided that I'm not going to be using any of this money, okay? I will reinvest all of it. And the whole idea of reinvesting all the money is, why would I, the big idea is, why would I reinvest all my money? Because, okay, and I'm not encouraging people to go and spend money on a credit card, okay? But at the end of the day, I have a credit card, right? I have a credit card, and if I need to spend money, I mean, you know, I can just put it on the credit card and pay for it at the end of the month, right? I can take a look at the credit card statement, and then I can see how much I need to pay, and then I can just liquidate a portion of my asset portfolio and then just pay it off if I need to, right? And the thing about me is that I don't have a spending problem. All right, that's one of the big things, you know, and I think that that's also one of the big reasons why I do so well with money. It's because I don't have a spending problem. In terms of the amount of money, and just to put things in perspective, I actually flat out invest about 125 to 150% of my income. So every dollar that I make, I actually invest about $1.25 to $1.50. So if I make $1, I will invest $1.25 to $1.50. And in terms of how much money do I spend, for every dollar that I make, I spend about 20 cents, 15 cents. All right, I legitimately reinvest all of my money and then some. All right, you know, all of the money that I have left over, I reinvest all of it. And then I also reinvest more on top of it with debt. All right, I legitimately, I don't think I bought myself anything, you know, in like the last 5 months. You know, I haven't bought anything. I haven't bought myself anything, okay? And I'm also not like a miserable person. All right, if I legitimately want to buy myself something, I'll just buy it. But I've legitimately invested all of my money, all of it, and then some into my business, okay? And I'm not lying to you about it. All right, I'm not lying to you about it. I legitimately invest all of my money. All right, I put all of my money into my business. I actually put more than 100% of my income into my business. And I'm not saying that, you should go and do this. I'm just telling you that that is what I do, okay? And if you do this and you mess it up, you're effectively just doomed forever, okay? You're probably not going to recover. But in terms of my balance sheet, in terms of my financials, I legitimately don't spend money on anything. You know, I make okay, and here's another way to look at it. I actually increased my income by about 1,000% in the last 2 years, okay? I increased my income by about 1,000% in the last 2 years, and I still drive my same truck, and I still live in my trailer house, legitimately. All right, I still do. All right, I expanded the size of my business. I'm making more money. And you know what? In the next 3 months, I will probably more than double the size of my balance sheet. All right, that's what I'm going to do with the money. That's what I will do with the money. I've already decided that is what I will do with the money. But that's a very realistic way to look at it. I increased my income by about 1,000% in the last year and a half, and I still drive the same truck. I legitimately didn't buy myself anything. I didn't buy anything. I invested all of my money. And taking a look at the little calf, this was yeah, I think he's doing okay. I think he's just full. But I'm doing very well for myself, and when I take a look at it for what it is, I mean, over the next because here's the thing, my income is actually going upwards. Okay, my income is actually going upwards. All right, and as of this moment in time, I already outperformed the entire U.S. economy. All right, I outperformed the entire U.S. economy. I may legitimately be like the most. And here's the thing about taking a dump on the entire U.S. economy. You can actually take a dump on the entire U.S. This is something that I've thought about. You can actually take a dump on the entire U.S. economy doing anything. It doesn't have to be farming. You could legitimately be an athlete. You could be a mathematician. You could be whatever. I mean, you could be whatever. I mean, you could legitimately take. You could play the guitar. Or you could be a musician and take a dump on the entire U.S. economy. At the end of the day, the only thing is that you actually have the skill set. All right, you actually have to learn how to do it. Nobody cares about an opinion. Nobody cares. If you can actually do it, then you can do it. And but just understand that I actually took a dump on the entire U.S. economy becoming a farmer. All right, I legitimately out-earned everybody. It wasn't even close. Legitimately was not even close. Okay, like when I take a look at how much money I generate farming, I effectively out-earn the entire U.S. economy. But you can do this you can out-earn the entire U.S. economy just about doing anything. All right, you don't have to become a farmer. You can legitimately do it doing anything. All right, you could be a computer programmer, you could be a musician, you could be an athlete. You could do it in any way that you want. All right, it's not some unheard of thing to find somebody who legitimately just takes a dump on the entire thing. It's not hard to find. Okay, you can find it in terms of farming. I don't know anybody else other than me. How many people do you know right now? It's like if you were forced to leave Disneyland, everybody has to leave Disneyland, and we're actually just going to put everybody on a field, and whoever does it actually gets the money. All right, and in terms of that situation, I would probably outperform the entire planet by a long shot when it comes to farming. Okay, I probably would. I would be willing to bet that I am somewhere near the very, very, very top. Near the very top, if not at the very top by a long shot. When I take a look at the results that I have, and when I take a look at what I'm doing, I effectively outperform the entire commercial standard. All right, more or less, or just about. And it just is what it is. I mean, I don't know what else to tell you. And at the end of the day, I make a massive amount of money. All right, I make a massive. I don't even know how much money I make. My income is going upwards. I don't have some spending problem, right? I don't have a spending problem. I increased my income by about 1,000%, and I didn't even change my truck. All right, I didn't even change the truck that I'm driving. I'm not saying I'm a saint, okay? And but I mean, in terms of money, all right, in terms of money, I effectively do better than everybody on the entire planet, just about. All right, almost everybody. I would actually anticipate that over the next 3 months, I would actually expand my balance sheet by more than 200%. All right, my animals, except for these real small ones like that one and this one, they'll probably need a couple more months. But the rest of the animals will be ready to go for market here within about 2 or 3 months. Okay. And and I've already decided. I've taken a look at it, and I said, well, there's no reason for me to be poor, right? I sat there and I thought about it, and I said, there's no reason for me to be poor. Why would I intentionally choose to be poor? And in all honesty, if giving people money was going to save them, if giving people money would save their life, I would give everybody every dollar that I made. But you cannot save somebody by giving them money. So I'm taking a look at my situation, and I'm doing so well farming that I effectively make an astronomical amount of money. All right, when it comes to farming, I do so well that I effectively just take a dump on the entire planet. And so I'm taking a look at my situation, and my money is proof of that. I'm legitimately making so much money doing this that I don't even know how much money I'm making. I will be selling 40 animals in the next 2.5 months. I will make enough money to buy 65, 70 animals. I will probably be able to buy 3 loads of grain, 2 loads of fertilizer, and and legitimately, okay, I will go net positive about 25 animals in the next 2 months. All right, so I'm taking a look at my situation, and I've decided to put all the money back into my business, because it's like, here's the thing. Let's say that I just decided that I wasn't going to grow my business, right? And I talk about this in terms of a business owner. In terms of the perspective of a business owner, when you speak to a business owner and you actually communicate with the business owner, if the business owner is looking to go sideways, then you actually have to take a look at the person who's running the thing when it comes to running a business, okay? Because there are 3 directions that you can go. All right, there are 3 directions that any business can go. They can go down, up, or sideways. That's it. All right, there is no other direction that a business can go. You either go down, sideways, or you go up. All right, and so when I take a look at my situation, if I were to take my business sideways, I could pull, whatever, $10,000 a month off of my business. I could pull $10,000 a month off my business and spend it on whatever I wanted. Maybe even $15,000 a month and spend it on whatever I wanted. And my business would not even shrink. My balance sheet would not even shrink. And in all honesty, here's another realistic way to look at it. When I take the money that I make from raising these animals and I reinvest it back into my business, and let's say that I do double this. Let's say that, things don't go horribly wrong, but things don't go horribly right. Let's just imagine that things go okay. Let's just say that in 2 months, let's just say that I didn't do anything to whatever. All right. And in 2 months, things just went okay. For the next 2 months, things just went okay. Things didn't go exceptionally well, and things didn't go exceptionally bad. They just went okay. And I did actually manage to increase the size of my business by 100%. I actually doubled my balance sheet. Let's just imagine, right? Because let's just think about it. If I doubled the size of my balance sheet over the next 2.5 months, over the next 3 months, right? Let's just think about it. If I did that, okay, here's another way to look at that. Here's another way to look at this. If I did that, within 3 months, if I spent $10,000 just about $10,000, $7,000 a week. If I spent, okay, let's say I double the size of my balance sheet. Here's a very realistic way to look at it. Because in terms of the total amount of money I make, I don't know. All right. But I've already decided that I will actually increase the size of my business. I will actually do better for myself. I'm actually looking to do better for myself. Here's another way to look at it. If I spent $7,000, $8,000 today, let's just say over the next 2 months, things go okay, and I actually just stick to the plan and I do it, right? I'm the guy running the thing. At the end of the day, I'm the one who gets to decide. So let's just say that, I decided that I was going to do it, and I actually did it. Right, I'm taking a look at it and I'm saying, all of my animals are effectively stabilized. All of these animals are effectively stabilized, right? Multiple shots of BRD vaccinations, multiple shots of Covaxin, all been dewormed, etc., right? So I take a look at my herd and I say, well, all of these animals are stabilized. And I would anticipate that over the next 2 months that things just go okay. Things don't go bad, but things don't go well. Things just go okay. And I double the size of my balance sheet. If I spent $8,000 by the next week, I would have made all $8,000 back. Legitimately, I could spend $7,000 a week and it would not matter. That's another way to look at how much money I am making in the cattle business. As of right this moment, if I spent $10,000 a month, maybe even $15,000 a month, it would not do anything to my business. And another way to look at this is last month, I've raised 47 animals. I'm raising 47 animals, and my business cost me like $590 something for the entire month of April. I spent about $590 something on my business, raising 47 cattle. These 47 cattle probably put on 80 pounds apiece. All right, that's another way to look at it. All right, I didn't have any animals die at all last month. Legitimately zero. And for the entire year, I have a death loss of about 3 or 4%. That, you can crunch the numbers whichever way you want. All right, when I sell these 40 animals, I will probably have 40 animals for sale at 750 pounds over the next 3 months. When I sell these 400, or when I sell these, when I sell these 40 animals, these animals will weigh 750, but a vast majority of them, I would have brought them home at about 325. So I will have more than doubled their weight. All right, and then when I sell those animals and I reinvest my earnings, if I take a little bit of leverage, I can more than double the size of my balance sheet. All right, when it comes to farming, it just is what it is. I legitimately take a dump on the entire planet. I'm not making this up. At the end of the day, I'm the one with the money. Why would I care? If it legitimately comes down to it, I'll just be rich by myself. All right, I legitimately do so well farming that it's borderline incredible. Like, I didn't even imagine that it was going to turn out like this. All right, I didn't even imagine that it was going to turn out like this. My death loss legitimately is below 4%. My cost of gains are like a 500, like less than $1,000 a month. I am legitimately spending less than $1,000 a month on my business. All right, and I'm raising 47 commercial animals at a time. All right, I'm doing exceptionally well. I legitimately, and in terms of a broader perspective, not even farming, I legitimately do so well farming that I am taking a dump on the entire U.S. economy. Legitimately the whole thing. Probably the entire planet. All right, I'm doing exceptionally well. All right, and at the end of the day, realistically, I could spend okay, because here's the thing. And I've already said that this is what I'm going to do. So guess what? I will probably end up doing it, right? I will probably end up doing it. The thing about me is that, we'll see, right? Do I end up spending a bunch of money and then not growing my business? I mean, if I don't grow my business, I mean, it's very easy to tell, right? There are only 3 directions that a business can go: up, down, or sideways. And I am sending my business vertical. Okay, I am sending myself vertical. I've already decided to do it. All right, so I take a look at the whole situation. In all honesty, here's the thing. If I, within 2 months, let's just say that everything goes okay, and I do what I say, that over the next 3 months, let's just say everything goes okay, and I do what I set out to do, right? So if I do what I set out to do and I just do okay, another way to look at the money is if I spent $7,000 a week, it would not matter. That's another way to look at it. All right, if I spent $7,000 a week, it would not matter. I would make all of the money back before I spent it. That's how much money I am making farming. I am legitimately going to double the size of my balance sheet, more than double the size of my balance sheet over the next 3 months by just taking the money that I make on my cattle and reinvesting that money and leveraging against a small portion of it. Legitimately. If I do that, if I sell my 40 animals and I make enough money to buy 65, so I'm net profit 25 animals, and I make enough money to buy 2 or 3 loads of grain and 2 loads of fertilizer, which I won't need 2 loads of fertilizer because it will be blazing hot outside. So let's just say 3 or 4 loads of grain. So let's say I buy 3 or 4 loads of grain, and the cost of the grain, I will probably be able to even reduce that expense by baling hay on my lease property. I will probably be able to even reduce that expense. So I may even be talking about buying 70 or 75 cattle, 70 cattle. Let's just say 70. So let's say I sell 40 and I buy 70. So I'm net profit 30 animals, and I go to the bank and I take a loan for 30 more animals, and I buy 100 animals instead of 70. Right? I wouldn't even be leveraged 1-for-1 on my balance sheet. I would be leveraged under a 1-for-1. And I would have 100 cattle. All right. I mean, that's another, that's another way to look at it. All right. I will probably net profit 25 or 30 animals in the next 3 months. 10 animals a month. All right. I do so well farming that it's borderline incredible. All right, and legitimately. And at the end of the day, I'm the one with the money. Why would I care? If it comes down to it, I will sit here and be rich by myself. I'm not going to go down with a bunch of poor people. And I'm not bashing you for being poor. If you're poor, I'm not, which is effectively, I'm not bashing anybody for being poor. If you're poor, I would actually hope that you turn yourself around, okay? There's no reason to be poor. You're not going to benefit from being poor. All right, chances are you're not a saint to begin with. I mean, if you're having money problems, you're actually probably not having money problems. You're probably having other problems, and it's causing you to have a money problem. All right, and when it comes to money, I effectively do better than the entire planet. And at the end of the day, if it comes down to it, you don't have to believe me. Which I would suggest that whatever, right? You look into it for yourself. You think about it for yourself. Look at my cattle, right? Look at my cattle. When I say that these animals are effectively all stabilized, I'm talking about multiple shots of vaccinations, right? Multiple shots of vaccinations. They've all been preconditioned properly. They all look good, right? None of my animals are showing signs of illness. Knock on wood. I don't want to give myself bad juju. But, all of my animals had multiple shots of vaccinations. All of my animals have been preconditioned. They all look good, right? That's what I'm talking about when I say a stabilized herd. And when I talk about things just going okay over the next 2 months, effectively, I just continue to do this for 2 months. That's what I'm talking about. And if I do that, I will effectively make enough money to buy, when I sell the 40 animals, I will make enough money to buy like 70. All right, that's what I'm talking about. And if I reinvest my earnings and I leverage against just the earnings that I have, and I reinvest all of that money, I would not be buying 70 animals. I would be buying 100. All right, and so, I mean, and that would be over the next 2 months, 3 months. I still have 5 months left in the year. All right, I'm just about at 70 animals for the year already. For me to continue my business forward without very much debt at all, just reinvesting my earnings, right? I mean, I would already effectively be at about 170 cattle, 160 cattle within, by the seventh month of the year. By the end of the year, I may legitimately end the year having run close to 400 cattle for the year. That's, think about it for yourself. If I have 400 cattle and I raise them small and I sell them big, then you think about it. All right, I've already run 70, I'm already on just about 70 animals for the year, right? It's May. I would say that in the next 2 months, I end up liquidating 40 out of 47 animals. Most of my animals are going to be getting sold, a little bit smaller than that real big one in the back over there, a little bit smaller than that. They'll be selling at about $750, and I'll be buying them at about $325, maybe up to $400 on the average. All right, I'm legitimately making so much money. I don't even know how much money I'm making. I make a lot. All right, and I effectively took a dump on the entire planet, starting myself a commercial cattle farm. Okay, I'm not lying about it. You can sit there and think about it for yourself. Legitimately sit there and think about it for yourself. For the love of God, don't go down Disneyland. Oh my God, and a bunch of opinions. Actually sit there and think about it. If I ran 70 cattle so far this year and I'm going to liquidate, I will be liquidating effectively, 65 out of those 70 animals in the next. I've already liquidated, a set of animals already this year, right? Maybe a dozen or, whatever animals, right? Maybe a little bit, I lost count. But, I've already liquidated some animals. I have 47 animals right now. You know, I've ran about 70 cattle for the year. And, when I liquidate these animals, you know, when I bring them in small. I bring them in a little bit smaller than that. And when I sell them a little bit smaller than that one. Right? And so I take the money and then I just reinvest it, right? And I mean, and then you sit there and think about it. All right, don't take my word for it. If anything, I would encourage that you don't take, I would encourage critical thinking. Sit there and think about it for yourself. Don't ask anybody for an opinion. All right, sit there and think about it for yourself. How much, how much money do you think I'm going to make? If I sell 70 big cattle and I bought them small, I mean, how much money do you think I'm going to make? A lot. I don't even know how much. A lot. And I will reinvest my earnings, okay? I will actually probably end the year closer to having run about 350 and 400 cattle for the year by myself. All right, I probably will. All right, and, something like that. Over the next 3 months, for me to just keep pace with, the amount of money that I'm making. When I sell 40 animals, I will have to buy almost 190 to 100 animals just to reinvest my earnings and leverage against just my earnings. Just to do that, I will have to purchase 100 animals, 90 to 100 animals in the next 3 months. All right, and I've already run 70 cattle for the year. All right, and and when I will probably end the year having run closer to 400 cattle than 170. So then you sit there and you think about it. If I run 400 cattle for the year, if I run even let's just say I lowball the crap out of myself and say 250. If I run 250 cattle for the year, I mean, how much do you think I'm gonna make? Right, and you sit there and you think about it. I mean, don't take my word for it. You sit there and think about it. Okay, I would encourage critical thinking. All right, critical thinking is very important. And and this is not some massive level of critical thinking either. Okay, this is not some extremely high level critical thinking. I mean, we're not talking about coming up with some formula for we're talking about a small animal, right? Me bringing in a small animal and selling them big. That's what we're talking about. It's not some massive level of critical thinking, right? It's not some very high level critical thinking or anything. I legitimately, in terms of a broader perspective, I legitimately make so much money farming. I legitimately took a dump on practically the entire planet. The entire planet, okay? I actually do it. I'm not making this up. I'm not lying to you about it. I'm not a malicious person about it. I am telling you I am making so much money, I don't even know how much money I'm making. All right, legitimately, that's the situation that I'm in. And when I take a look at it, I will probably end up buying something like 100 cattle, 90 to 100 cattle in the next 3 months. That's how much money I will make. I will make enough money to buy 90 to 100 cattle in the next 3 months, just in the next 3 months. And I have 47 right now. I will legitimately just take the money that I make from selling my animals and buy more. All right, last month my business cost me like $590 something. It was like $593 or something, $592 or something. That's how much money I spent on my entire business for the entire month. And for that $592, I was able to raise 47 animals to a commercial standard. I didn't have any death loss. I'm looking at refertilizing my field. Even when I refertilize my field, it will cost me, for me to fertilize this field and my lease property, it will cost me about $1,200. Maybe not, something like $1,200. And here's the thing, in July, I'll actually be baling the hay on my lease property. All right, and that will reduce the cost of my feed even more. All right, I legitimately make so much money farming. I don't even know how much money I'm making. I know I make a lot. I would actually reasonably it just is what it is. I'm legitimately taking a dump on the entire U.S. economy. Effectively, if I'm talking about the U.S. economy, I'm talking about the entire planet. I am legitimately doing so well farming that I'm taking a dump on the entire planet financially. All right, that's legitimately. All right, I'm doing very well for myself. I actually exceeded commercial standards, and I'm doing it by myself. The thing about that's so incredible is that usually when you have a commercial standard, what you have is a veterinarian, and then you have a soil scientist, and then you have a business major, and then you have an animal health specialist, and then you have a feed manager. All right, you have an animal feed specialist, and you have all these people running around together, whatever, right? You have all these people running around together, and they're running cattle, and the veterinarian is taking care of the medications for the animal. The animal feed specialist is taking care of the feed mix for the animals. The soil specialist is going around and collecting soil data to grow the crop, and then the business manager is buying cattle and looking at the commodity market. And then your animal health specialist is going around designing the pens for the animals, and figuring out what's the stocking densities, and et cetera, right? And you have all these people running around together. But me, I did all of that by myself. I raise the animal by myself. I do the animal medication. I'm not gonna say all of it, but effectively 98% of it. And I'm not saying that through a selfish lens, okay? I'm not saying that I just figured this all out magically on my own. I was not born with the answer. I read a lot of books, and I took a lot of my own data, and I actually worked on this thing every day for 7 days a week. I legitimately lived where I worked, and I worked on this thing every single day. All right, that is, and I managed to do all of this 98% of it by myself. The business, the cattle, the land, the soil, the designing of the animal, health systems, and I effectively did all of this by myself. That's the incredible part. I legitimately managed to do all of it by myself, and that's what I had to do to make this money. All right, effectively that was what had to be done. That and at the end of the day, I'm the one who makes the money, right? I actually make the money. At the end of the day, why would I care? I make so much money farming, I don't even know how much money I make. It's enough to do anything on the entire planet. All right, it's enough to do anything on the entire planet. I've taken a look at my situation, and I have decided to just reinvest all of the money back into my business. All right, that's what I've decided to do. And at the end of the day, am I a malicious person? No, I'm not. But at the end of the day, why would I go and be poor? If it comes down to it, I will be rich by myself. All right, if it comes down to it, why would I go and be a poor person? I legitimately make so much money farming, I can do anything on the entire planet. I will just continue to do that. If it comes down to it, I will, right? I'm financially one of the most successful people in the entire world. Why would I go and be poor? If anything, I will sit here and be rich by myself. All right, I make more money on my 10.5 acre field than most people make on 500. Legitimately. I managed to do more or less all of this by myself. That's incredible. The amount of money that I'm making is incredible. The standards that I'm running my cattle to, right? The level that I'm running my cattle to is incredible. The grass that I grow is incredible. It's borderline world-class on all three fronts. The business, the land, the business, the grass, the cattle. It's borderline all, world-class. Some of the best results you could ever imagine. Right? And at the end of the day, if it comes down to it, I will just be rich by myself. Am I a horrible, malicious person? No, I'm not. But why would I be poor? I legitimately make so much money farming that I can do anything on the entire planet, just about. Legitimately. All right, why would I care? When I sell these 40 animals over the next 2 months, I will probably make enough money from just reinvesting the money that I make on my cattle. I will probably make enough money to buy like 70 animals, 3 loads of grain, and I will still probably have a couple $1,000s left over. Legitimately. And, and another way to look at this is over the last 30 days, it's a new month. In the month of April, I spent $590 something on my business. That's legitimately all of the money that I spent. I did not have a single animal die. 0 death loss. And I brought in, I think it was like 20 cattle, 15 cattle, something like that. And I did not have a single animal die. I spent like $590 something on my business in the last 30 days, and I raised 47 commercial standard animals for that money. All right, you know, the amount, the amount of money that I'm making is absolutely astronomical. It is astronomical. All right, and it's going upwards. I've actually decided to just do even better. All right, and that's it for me today, YouTube. Y'all have a good one.